Dobro jutro svima i dobrodošli na našu prvu raspravu danas koja se bavi aktualnim izazovima Europske unije u pogledu njezine mirotvorne misije, kako iz perspektive procesa koji se događaju na samom europskom kontinentu i unutar Europske unije, a uz to naravno i u pogledu uloge Europske unije kao globalnog aktera međunarodnih odnosa, sigurnosti, razvoja i mira. Ja sam Marina Škrabalo, jako mi je drago i jako sam na neki način i potresena što smo danas svi ovdje zajedno i što na današnji dan sudjelujemo u otvaranju, nadamo se, neke nove stranice u razvoju odnosa između Hrvatske, Europske unije, svih nas na zajedničkom naporu da oživotvorimo ono što i piše u ugovoru o osnivanju Europske unije. Ja bih nas kratko samo na početak ipak podsjetila na ono što je zapravo misija Europske unije, kako je definirana u ugovoru, u objedinjenom sad pročišćenom tekstu u članku 3. Znači, Europska unija promiče ekonomsku, socijalnu i teritorijalnu koheziju te solidarnost među državama članicama, suzbija društvenu isključenost i diskriminaciju, promiče socijalnu pravdu i zaštitu, ravnopravnost žena i muškaraca, međugeneracijsku solidarnost i zaštitu prava djeteta. Ona poštuje svoju bogatu kulturnu i jezičnu raznolikost te osigurava očuvanje i unapređenje kulturnog nasljeđa Europe. U svojim odnosima s ostatkom svijeta, Unija podržava i promiče svoje vrijednosti i interese i doprinosi zaštiti svojih građana. Ona doprinosi miru, sigurnosti, održivom razvoju zemlje, solidarnosti i uzajamnom poštovanju među narodima, slobodnoj i poštenoj trgovini, iskorjenjivanju siromaštva i zaštiti ljudskih prava, osobito prava djeteta, te strogom poštovanju i razvoju međunarodnog prava, uključujući poštivanje načela Povelje Ujedinjenih naroda. Unija svoje ciljeve ostvaruje odgovarajućim sredstvima, primjerenim nadležnostima koje su dodijeljene ugovorima. Ako krenemo s punom sviješću o tome što je upisano u samim temeljima Europske unije, onda možemo legitimno, građanski hrabro razgovarati o tome kako je Europska unija kroz svoje dosadašnje djelovanje uspjela oživotvoriti ovu svrhu i što su sve izazovi pred nama. Tu su nam i s nama su izuzetno zanimljivi sugovornici koji će nas uvesti u temu i inspirirati da proširimo ovaj razgovor na sve nas. Zato bih srdačno pozdravila gospodina Markusa Mackela, teologa, bivšeg ministra vanjskih poslova DDR-a i zastupnika Bundestaga. Gospođu Lidiju Knežević, novinarku i sigurnosnu stručnjakinju portala obris.org, te Bena Mura, pomoćnika direktora Europskog kontaktnog ureda za izgradnju mira, ako to tako mogu prevesti na hrvatski. I za početak, ja bih svakog od naših gostiju i naravno našu gošću zamolila ako nam kratko mogu samo podijeliti kako vide, kako vi shvaćate misiju Europske unije kad se radi o izgradnji mira. Što je izgradnja mira za vas u kontekstu našeg zajedničkog političkog i društvenog prostora? Samo kratko blic, da vidimo da li smo u sličnom prostoru razumijevanja.
Ladies first.
Okay. Thank you. Dakle, za početak, ja sam novinarka i urednica portala obris.org koju sam zajedno sa kolegom Igorom Tabakom pokrenula ovdje u Hrvatskoj zbog pomanjkanja praćenja tema iz obrane i sigurnosti. Između ostalog, bavimo se tim temama i na razini Europske unije i gledamo hrvatsku ulogu u tom spektru. Nažalost, vrlo brzo smo primijetili da Europska unija i ono što se događa na polju obrane i sigurnosti u Europskoj uniji, naše čitatelje zapravo uopće ne zanima. Zašto? Zato što su svi orijentirani prema NATO-u, jednako kao što je orijentirana zapravo i naša kompletna obrambena politika. Tako da u tom kontekstu meni se čini da govoriti o poimanju peacekeepinga i peacebuildinga u Europskoj uniji i o našoj ulozi u tome je pomalo čak, grubo je reći, ali pomalo čak deplasirano, budući se gleda isključivo zapravo kroz jednu obrambenu i vojnu dimenziju i voljela bi u nastavku ovog panela govoriti upravo o tom problemu.
Thank you, Lidija. I'll just give a quick update because it didn't get translation. So, Lidija just pointed out that the problem is that the defense aspect is always highlighted, and the relations that from the Croatian perspective, NATO takes precedence when it comes to understanding what the security policy is about, and that this lack of focus on peace building aspect and on EU's role is something that she would like to discuss. Okay.
Okay. I think it is important, and especially because I'm a German, it's important to say that the roots of European Union have to do with the readiness of reconciliation. Because if there were no process of reconciliation between Germany and France, it hadn't been possible. I think this is a very important issue, that from the beginning it was a readiness to dealing with past on the way of reconciliation, and on the other hand to shape conditions of cooperation in order to secure peace for the future. By cooperation, by bringing together the resources. And it started with economy, but as you said, in the constitution today is much more. It is a political body with all dimensions of communities, of politics, and so I think it is very important to have that in mind. The second point I like to remember is that it is important that we ask ourselves from which perspective we do commemoration. I think that's very important, because we have to learn, and I would say that's a challenge for all of us, to go forward to commemorate from the perspective of our values, of our common values, of our values who are fixed in our constitution, in the Lisbon Treaty. It is not called constitution, we know why, but it is our basis. And looking from that, for instance, taking my own example, my father was an officer of Wehrmacht. And he was not on the Balkan, but in the East. And it is important to accept and to be ready to say that I am happy that this army he was part of was defeated. And even saying it, he survived. That's why I'm alive. But in all these graves, which are all over Europe, there are soldiers, and I have to be not even happy, but my father could be there. And I'm linked with that. That a family is mourning, that has to be accepted, even if the soldier did crimes. But on the other hand, we have to accept that there were crimes, even the own one. And Europe started with that project of common institution in accepting that there were crimes, but that means accepting the own one too. And this, I think, is a very important basis, not only for the past, but until the current situation. I, for some years, was the president of the German War Grave Commission. I was responsible for all war graves abroad. And one of my principles, and even we in Germany, not really follow that always, but to say, if you remember German soldiers, and we have a lot, even in Croatia, and we have to have in mind that in Croatia there were allies with Ustasha. And if you see the current situation in the public, what Ustasha and that national behavior plays a role today, then you see that it is a current issue and not just past. And I would say we have, on the one hand, to accept that crimes we as Germans did here, towards Jewish people, towards civilians, towards Serbs, mostly then, and Roma and many others. And then, on the other hand, if I go to a cemetery here, I have to see that even these are very often young soldiers or people, and I can mourn that all these young guys died. But you can only mourn about them if you accept the memorial about their victims too. And I think this is the main question for me, how we can improve the dialogue of commemoration, to accept and at first to listen about the victims of the others. I think this both belongs together, and even taking this example, it is not past yet, even 35 years after.
Hvala lijepa. Znači, izgradnja mira je i svrha i zadaća Europske unije je duboko ukorijenjena u našem zajedničkom kolektivnom iskustvu patnje i gubitaka, ali isto tako, ali najvažnije od svega u našim vrijednostima iz kojih krećemo i iz njih onda gradimo politike. Ben, što za vas znači izgradnja mira u kontekstu Europske unije danas, prije nego što krenemo u tehničku, političku raspravu? Kako vi to osobno vidite?
Okay. So, good morning. Thank you. So, from my organisation, the European Peacebuilding Liaison Office, we firmly believe in the EU as a peace project. It's kind of the starting point for our work, and we believe from that our work is focused on the EU's role as a global peace actor. So, in the ambitions that the EU has as an organisation, as an institution, to promote peace and prevent violent conflict around the world. And we feel we have to constantly remind the EU of that its stated ambition, as you said in the introduction, Marina, about the EU's own goals, the values it says it wants to promote, and we see that over the past 20 years the EU has really focused on that role that it plays as a global peace-building actor. In 2001 it had its first programme on conflict prevention under the Swedish presidency of the Council of the EU, and then ever since then it's been developing its own policies in terms of how it can best support peace building around the world, most recently with the EU's global strategy, which was adopted in 2016. One question that I have personally is the extent to which the EU as a peace project still has resonance within the EU, within all the member states. And it makes me think we implemented an EU project under a programme called Europe for Citizens a few years ago. Through it we organised a series of meetings in different European member states on the theme of the EU as a peace project. And I think it was interesting to see the difference in approach from the people who came to those meetings. Of, in certain member states, you mentioned Franco-German reconciliation as the starting point for the European Union. But in other member states, I feel possibly less so. It's more about the European Union as an economic project more than the peace building. So to some extent, perhaps it is forgotten in certain places. However, I think there's still the desire for the EU to be a global peace actor is very strong, and it's working on that. And as you mentioned, Lydia, there's possibly concerns right now about the direction of travel that the EU is taking. But I think overall, we have to be optimistic about, as peace builders, about the EU's approach to peace building and that the things they want to do. But we can talk about the kind of defence things as well separately.
Hvala lijepa. Rado bih da se u ovom našoj raspravi fokusiramo upravo na ono što jesu naravno izazovi i izazovi koji su pred Europskom unijom danas, ali naravno iz perspektive onoga što smo mogli naučiti iz različitih procesa, internih i eksternih, u zadnjih pola stoljeća. U tom smislu predložila bih da možda se fokusiramo na nekakve 3 glavne grupe izazova. Jedna se odnosi na to u kojoj mjeri u datom kontekstu suvremenom Europska unija uopće može djelovati kao autonoman globalni akter, mirovni akter, u odnosu na druge grupacije, interesne odnose, sigurnosne saveze i politike njezinih pojedinih članica. Znači, koliko Europska unija uopće danas jest i može biti akter sam po sebi globalnog mira i izgradnje mira? Ako da, i koliko da, i zašto da, a zašto ne, onda što to znači u političkoj, ali i u organizacijskoj praksi, u pogledu toga koji su to ciljevi i na koji način i da li Europska unija može povezati sigurnosnu, razvojnu i demokratsku, odnosno ljudsko-pravašku dimenziju svog djelovanja, kako bi, ono što i piše u ugovorima, njezina politika sve više zahvaćala prema konceptu ljudske sigurnosti, koja je ipak nadređena i puno šira konceptu nacionalne sigurnosti, a onda na organizacijskoj razini što to konkretno znači sa spektrom institucija, politika, struktura, država članica, koordinacijskih mehanizama i gdje su tu možda izazovi koji čak i kad ima političke volje, na organizacijskoj razini se stvari mogu rasprsnuti. Tako da bih molila možda sada Bena da bude prvi i da možda da ukratko svima nama isto bolji uvid u to, konkretno koliko je Europska unija autonomna, kako stojimo s političkom voljom i sa vizijom toga koji tip mirovne politike se zapravo promovira i sigurnosne, te onda koje su to strukture o kojima moramo voditi računa da li one funkcioniraju ili ne.
Okay. I'll do that shortly.
You just take your time.
I think in terms of the EU as a strong peace-building actor, as I said, absolutely it should be. We feel it can be a very stronger than it is. It can do more, and we feel it also should do more. It's in a good position to do that, especially in the current situation with other international actors who perhaps aren't taking the course that we would, as peace builders, like them to be following. Interesting, I read in the CROSOL paper about this kind of, I think it was referred to as a global vacuum in terms of peace building, which I think the EU is in a good position to fill. They have a possibility to lead because of its nature as a peace project, because of its global coverage, because of the wide range of tools and resources that it has at its disposal, because of the principles and values that it wants to uphold, and the fact that it has these very high ambitions. And I feel perhaps one of the problems with these ambitions, the fact that they're so high, is there's perhaps a gap between between the implementation, between the rhetoric and the practice, so in terms of the actual implementation. And as you mentioned, Marina, in question, to do with limitations. So obviously, I think despite its high ambitions, the EU does obviously, like everyone else, have its own limitations. For example, if it wants to be a strong international peace-building actor, it needs its own member states to really support that. It doesn't act on its own. It's a union of member states. The member states have to support it. And to some extent, I wonder if there isn't some skepticism from certain member states about the value of peace building and whether that's a viable option for them to pursue in their international relations. You also alluded to the fact there are internal coordination issues within the EU. It's not a single body. There are lots of institutions. They all have to work together. There are 28 at the time of speaking member states, soon to be one fewer. And that's also an issue as well. The member states in rhetoric, they say nobody we speak to in Brussels says they're against peace building or conflict prevention, but to what extent are they willing to actually invest human and financial resources to implement its policies? Also the question of, is peace building prioritized? So in crisis situations, we feel the reaction is much more to focus on immediate short-term crisis response type actions rather than long-term civilian peace building, which is what we promote. And on a very practical detail, the EU's main kind of foreign policy forum is called the Foreign Affairs Council, and they don't really discuss these types of issues. They tend to deal with very immediate crises ongoing and how the EU is going to respond to them. There's not really time or the opportunity for them to have these discussions about longer term peace building approaches. And then even when, as I mentioned earlier, we focus a lot on policy, so we look at the development of EU policies in terms of peace building, lots of very positive developments. We've supported and had input in many different areas. But also then there's the question of, okay, if as the EU, they have agreement on general peace-building approaches. How do they apply those to their specific, when the EU wants to intervene in Libya or where else just now, in the Sahel region, for example, or in Colombia, how can it apply those general approaches to its specific programs when it's developing them? Question about how it can work with other actors. I think the EU does well in terms of cooperating with other international actors. I think one of the EU's advantages is it has a wide range of partners from the UN and NATO to some extent. There is cooperation, dialogue going on, but also with civil society and with its own member states. So I think that's an area that it can and does and can do more of.
Ben je definitivno među nama promicatelj optimistične vizije Europske unije koja po svemu sudeći iz kondicionala, iz should, mi mogla preći i u shall i is doing u present. Jel? Lidija, kako vi gledate na realne učinke i mogućnosti Europske unije temeljem praćenja kriznih žarišta širom svijeta? Možete li nam možda istaknuti neke primjere gdje je Europska unija uspjela djelovati vjerodostojno, autonomno, a opet komplementarno s drugima, ili primjere gdje joj to baš i nije uspjelo?
Iako mi se čini da sam ja ovdje dežurni pesimista, ipak dijelim dio Benovog optimizma. To je prije svega da bi Europa zaista mogla i trebala biti autonomnija. Međutim, ono što ju u tome koči je zapravo rastući val s jedne strane fanova političke nekorektnosti koji to pretaču u državnu politiku, nažalost, pojedinih zemalja članica, a s druge strane slabija, meni se čini slabija vidljivost misija, operacija i akcija koje Europska unija poduzima na tom polju u odnosu na NATO. Dakle, puno smo čuli o NATO-vim naporima, recimo u Afganistanu. Gotovo da ništa nismo čuli o europskim naporima u Afganistanu. Europska unija kaže da ima interesa tamo razvijati mir, širiti suradnju sa nacionalnom vlašću, sa lokalnim zajednicama. Nažalost, u odnosu na NATO se praktički ništa ne čuje o europskim naporima. S druge strane, ono što također meni se čini minus u Europskoj uniji, da previše aktera želi biti prvi među jednakima, gdje se nažalost, već nekoliko godina na tom području se Francuska želi nametnuti kao prva i glavna, pokretala je pojedine operacije, intervenirala je u pojedinim, uglavnom afričkim zemljama, gdje nažalost uskoči Njemačka sa svojim primjedbama, Italija pokušava napraviti nešto drugo gledajući vlastite nacionalne interese, tako da na najvišoj razini Europske unije nema sloge, nema zajedništva, ajmo to tako reći, za razliku od NATO-a gdje se nekako prešutno prihvatilo da su SAD prvi, glavni, najsposobniji, najopremljeniji i gdje se gleda prije svega prema njima. Tako da Europska unija, ukoliko želi raditi na jačanju svoje autonomnosti, definitivno će najprije morati poraditi na konsenzusu među zemljama članicama. S druge strane, ako uzmemo neke akcije solidarnosti unutar Europske unije, kao što je primjerice solidarnost u slučaju nepogoda, poplava, požara. Dakle, tu stvari ipak puno bolje funkcioniraju nego kada su u pitanju operacije ili misije izgradnje mira i održavanja mira.
Izvan Europske unije. Možete nam se vi obratiti.
Okay, I can add some things, but I would like to follow the general approach, because you can have a lot of lectures about all these issues. And I think from my own experiences, I have seen a lot of difficulties. And I will look to the difficulties. The one is peace building, and the question of security in general is very much linked. You mentioned Afghanistan, and what I see is that we have not good ways until now really to have a comprehensive approach, which is always set with NATO and others. But even if NATO is saying it, NATO has not measures, just military measures. And so immediately the question of the cooperation of NATO and EU is a challenge. And this was always a challenge, and a very difficult one, because, for instance, because of Turkey. Turkey rejected because of Cyprus that cooperation. And it is really a very important point to have common action with the whole approach of challenges. Every military action is needed to accompanied by political, economic development questions. And this is often not enough considered before, and in a really to bring it to a common conception. I think this is a very important point, and I see even in Germany, I see a big difficulty. When I was a member of the parliament, for instance, and especially with Afghanistan, we had, as Germans, the responsibility for police, to bring police to Afghanistan, or develop and train
like
police.
Also.
Yeah, and if you see in which way we have done it, I was unable for 4 years to invite the Minister of Interior, who was responsible for, to the Foreign Affairs Commission, because it was always said regulations is the Minister of Interior is going to the Parliament, to the Commission of Interior, but not to the foreign. But he was responsible for the police, although he has to come to the Foreign Affairs Commission. Even in our crazy parliamentary regulations, it was not implemented. And so we have asked our question, do we have the right structures on the national level and even of the European one? I think this is very important. The civil-military cooperation and comprehensive conception making. I think this is a crucial point and very important deficit. On the other hand, we, for instance, we Germans, we have to accept that and we as Europeans at all, we have to do more for our security, because we cannot, that's the reality, we cannot trust that America is continuing what they did for a long time, for decades. And we have to ask ourselves the question, how we will do it? I think we have both institutions, we have to be better, and we have to shape a European caucus in NATO. The Americans were at first be against, but we have to do it. And until now we are not able, we are not really willing it to do. That's another difficulty. Then we have to ask ourselves not only for more expense for defense, I think we should, but that always repeated 2% quota is not sensible in my view. We have to ask at first for what we should do it. Do we have the right structures to have really, as European Union, in security issues, a comprehensive approach? We could do it better than NATO, because we have all means, theoretically, but in practice, it is not really combined. And so I think this is the second question. The third one is civil society. I admire, in this point, the American foundations. We have in Germany very good structure, even the Friedrich Ebert foundations, on party line. But sometimes you need that kind of supporting civil society, not following the party line. So I think that America did a good job very often to improve civil society in other countries. We established it in the European Union too, with European Endowment for Democracy. But if you look to that little endowment and the power of European Union, it is a little bit. We should improve our own institutions in order to improve civil society with a European face. What the Americans do always, and sometimes difficult too, but we should improve these efforts to improve civil society, not with paternalism, but to encourage them, finance them, and so I think there could be said a lot of that kind of financing cooperation even in Croatia. I think this is important. My last point I would raise in this moment is the minority question. We have not only in European Union only after the 90s started dealing with that question. Neglected it before a lot. But this year is the 100th anniversary of the first creation of minority rights by the League of Nations. And after in the legacy of the First World War. It was very important in the legacy of the First World War, more than 10 states were established. The most of them or all of them, as national states. But then the powers recognized that these national states had a lot of minorities. And so they created minority rights, and even a charter for that at a treaty, the so-called Little Versailles Treaty. And if we see in which way this failed until now, very often, then I think we have to establish, even as European Union, special instruments about dealing with minorities. We have it in our treaty, but we have not real institutions dealing with that. We have that criteria, but to implement it, in my view, should be done much more, much better with the European face.
Thank you. I just have a short question for you as a follow-up. When you look at German policy and then EU's policy over this period, because you have been a witness of all this and protagonist of all these processes, do you see that there is more convergence in terms of joint approaches or divergence in terms of connecting national and EU level of security planning and policy planning?
Both.
Both.
On the one hand, I think we did, as European Union, after 1990, a marvelous job. I really had a lot of discussions. My background is that I'm coming from the East Germany. I grew up in the communist part of Germany, and when I started being a member of the German Bundestag, coming from that communist background, one of the challenges were in that time the enlargement issues, but not as in a paternalistic way, but because it was clear that all these new democracies fought themselves, getting and becoming democracies, and they had the right to go that way. And in the beginning, it was very, very difficult in Brussels to get acceptance for that. And even in my own party, I found a lot of colleagues who said, we are in so good way. We have at first to make the deeper integration. If the others are in, we will fail. And so it started to have the talks and all that, what we have seen. And in the end, it was a real success that after almost 15 years, around 15 years, we had that enlargement. And in the same time, a draft of a constitution. And I think this, in my view, until now, really is a gift. To have both. On the one hand, the deeper integration, on the other hand, that enlargement. And I'm consisting very often to that. And the next point for today is, if we see the Lisbon Treaty, I think we don't follow that usually. And we have to ask ourselves how we can push forward ourselves following that line which we accepted in past, and even in the question of membership. We have usually the candidate status, but not in our treaty. In the treaty is it not there. There is very clear in 49, Article 49, there is said every European country can ask for membership if they are ready, if they want, if they are ready, and if EU is prepared. These are the three criteria. Coming from that, even Belarus has a European perspective. But I can't see any European politician saying so. But I think it is very important to say so, because it's a message to the people in Belarus. You never will convince Lukashenko for that, because he will lose his power. But it is a perspective of a European perspective. We have not to give it. It is set there. And the question is what we can do. We cannot export democracy, but we can support democrats. This is a very important issue. We come back to what I said to civil society. We are too weak. We are not willingness enough to do so. And so I think we should ask ourselves, and then the question about state and European Union. I think if I see the German politics, we very often neglect the European institutions and take it as a national issue with some other big powers in European Union. And I'm a social democrat, and if I see Gerhard Schröder, it was very important, in my view, to resist the Americans to take part in Iraq 2003. That was, in my view, very, very important. But on the other hand, he tried to do it just with France and some other allies, and the European Union as institutions, and especially the more little neighbors, were totally neglected. And I think this is a mistake. If they are even look to the Normandy, the so-called Normandy framework, why there's no representative of EU included? I think it is a mistake. That not only some powers, Germany and France and other European powers, the institution has to be there, and the institution has to be the place to be prepared, and not only on the national level. That's my conviction.
Puno hvala, otvorili smo, sad smo zakomplicirali stvari u pozitivnom smislu. Puno hvala na ovoj poruci koju ću sigurno zapamtiti, da Europska unija ne može izvoziti demokraciju, nego podržavati demokratske aktere. Te da je politika proširenja i paralelna politika produbljene, što dublje integracije Europske unije, da su to dva alata politike izgradnje mira Europske unije. I da u tom pogledu, kada integracija i proširenje se razumiju kao komplementarni procesi, imamo dokaz da je na europskom kontinentu proširen prostor miroljubive suradnje između različitih država, naroda i društava. Tako da to nije samo fikcija, nego je konkretan dokaz da takav pristup i takva strategija radi kada se njoj pristupa zajednički, strateški i dugoročno. S druge strane, sada smo istakli nekoliko bitnih stvari. Načelo obuhvatnog pristupa, znači comprehensive, obuhvatnog pristupa sigurnosti i miru, vrlo često podrivaju, naravno, interesi, partikularni interesi ili nevoljnost da se djeluje zajednički od samog starta, bez da neke zemlje zapravo sebe stavljaju u prvi plan, kao što je rekla Lidija. Uz pitanje obuhvata imamo i pitanje uvijek komplementarnosti sa naporima drugih aktera. Znači, Ben, ovo što smo sve tu čuli smo jedan vrlo konkretan prijedlog, a to je pitanje, i to je pitanje javne debate, kako se države članice Europske unije, pri čemu nemojmo zaboraviti da sve države članice nisu članice NATO-a i da članstvo u Europskoj uniji ne bi trebalo podrazumijevati članstvo u NATO-u, ali debata o tome kako se članice NATO-a, koje su države članice EU, pozicioniraju unutar NATO-a. Ima li tu neke dinamike, budući da vi pratite tu temu, koje je bitno govoriti? Da li se tu neki pomaci događaju, postoji li neki prijedlozi kako povećati homogenost unutar NATO-a i kako zapravo ovu ključnu stvar, a to je pitanje vojno-civilne suradnje, kako ju promovirati i kao načelo koje onda može možda pomaknuti i NATO u tom smjeru. To bih vas molila, Ben, ako možete komentirati. Znači, pitanje NATO-EU, I naravno druga ova stvar o kojoj smo pričali, koja je to centralna institucija, šta se događa sa EAS-om, sa FAK-om koji de facto kontrolira EAS, a ne vijeće. Znači, tu bi Hrvatska kao predsjedavajuća ima vrlo ograničeni prostor za utjecanje na agendu odbora za vanjske poslove. Šta se tu događa oko integriranja različitih točaka odlučivanja unutar EU? Ta dva pitanja. Benu dajemo najteža pitanja.
Okay. Excuse me. So the first thing is on EU-NATO, I should say it's not something that as EPLO we're really focused on. We're purely focused on the EU. So in terms of how it cooperates with NATO, how the member states who are not NATO members are engaged, that's kind of, it's not really the focus of our work. But to go back to the point that you made about the comprehensive approach, you know, kind of how the different member states, the civilian coordination, how the different member states cooperate. We're particularly interested, for example, the EU has its own integrated approach to conflicts and crises, and that's something that we're very focused on. Is how can the EU use the broad range of tools at its disposal better together? So how can they make all of its different areas work together? So you mentioned the External Action Service. That's probably the institution that we are most closely focused on, and there's a part of that called the Directorate for Integrated Approach for Security and Peace, and we're very focused on them, and within that they have a specific division on conflict prevention and mediation support. They're a key ally for us, and their role is to try and one of their roles is to try and increase the coordination between the EU institutions and what's happening to develop a strong, we hope, peace-building focused EU response to conflicts. They also work on conflict analysis, on mediation and dialogue, and then coordinate with the other institutions, so within the European Commission, the development part of the Commission, the neighbourhood directorate, all these different aspects. Also then you have the EU delegations and the role that they can play, and how, you know, because they're situated in the EU's partner countries where a lot of conflicts are taking place. I think of other tools that the EU has. I think you kind of mentioned in Afghanistan and the work, the missions. So we have an area of focus on the common security and defence policy, the EU's missions abroad, particularly the civilian missions, so the missions on rule of law, on police issues, on justice, on the border things, all these different areas. And for us, it depends on how they're used, whether they can contribute to the EU's support for peace building. The EU also has its own special representatives in different regions as well, which are important and can contribute to mediation and dialogue as well. Also, its election observation missions. To go back to what was said before about the support for civil society, that's one of the main focuses of our work as well, is kind of in all of the EU's different responses, it should support civil society peace building organisations, and it should work with them, it should involve them in its work, in its conflict analysis, in its reviews of its missions, making that connection so it's not completely acting on its own. In terms of kind of military issues, so as I said, we're not looking at NATO, we're purely looking at the EU, but you mentioned the defence question, or the increasing defence securitization of EU cooperation, or some people would even say militarization. So kind of, and for us, we have concerns about its implication for the EU's long-term support for peace building, for civilian peace building, and in that there have been a number of developments in recent years that you may be aware of. It was mentioned in the CROSOL paper, the European Defence Fund is a new area. Support for the European defence industry. There's also what's called permanent structured cooperation, or PESCO, which is kind of into EU military integration between different member states. And then more recently, there's been a catchily named thing called Capacity Building of Military Actors for Development and Security for Development, or CBSD, which is using EU funding for providing non-lethal training and equipment to military actors in the EU's partner countries, which was a development from 2017. At the moment it's quite limited in what they can do with it, and it's has a limited budget, but then it's going to continue in the future and could be increased. And then most recently, you may also be aware of what's called the European Peace Facility, which is a new initiative which is currently being negotiated, which we've raised questions about as well. It's a combination of existing programs, but also in a new area for the EU, the possibility of providing equipment, lethal equipment to military actors in its partner countries. So that's a whole new area that the EU is considering going down as well.
Okay. If you could, ako biste mogli samo još malo nam pojasniti u ovim svim inicijativama koliko se vodi računa i financijski, a i operativno o znači ne vojnim aspektima, odnosno o onim aspektima koji mogu raditi na onom srcu izgradnje mira, a to su procesi, društveni procesi, obnove povjerenja, obnove struktura, društvenih struktura, znači ovaj cijeli dio koji bi baš bio peace building. Kako to funkcionira u odnosu na fondove koji su namijenjeni primarno obrambenim kapacitetima?
Do you mean how will it...
The funding issue between security and military part and the civilian and peace building part?
So at the moment, it's mainly, I mean, the EU has all its different programs. It has within the EU budget thematic programs, for example, one called the Instrument Contributing to Stability and Peace, which they use. It's not huge in overall terms of EU funding, but it's the main source of EU support for peace building around the world. And also then, I think it was mentioned yesterday evening as well, the European Instrument for Democracy and Human Rights. A number of our member organisations, who are peace building organisations, also receive funding through that particular EU funding programme for their work on peace building issues around the world. But also the EU has huge geographic cooperation programs with its partners in different regions, and even if peace building isn't the main focus of those programs, they can also be used to support peace building activities. At the moment, the EU is negotiating its future EU budget called the Multi-Annual Financial Framework, which is, and the next period, the next budget is supposed to be from 2021 to 2027. And they're working on negotiating that between the member states at the moment. And as things stand in the negotiations, all these areas are due to be continued to be funded. So we're very much supporting that, the support for peace building, the support for civil society organisations, to continue that in the next cycle. But at the same time, introducing these new areas. So the defence fund is kind of slightly separate because it's an internal EU issue. It's basically an internal EU market question. But obviously, it will have implications on the overall amount of funding available. The European Peace Facility, however, it's a huge in the proposal from the European Commission. It's a huge amount of funding, and it's probably unlikely to be adopted in its current format at such a high level, but obviously it will have implications, because if the member states have to contribute funding to the EU budget, they have to decide where to prioritise, and if they do decide to prioritise the European Peace Facility, which we question sometimes its value as a peace building instrument. We would say perhaps it's more of a tool. It's called the European Peace Facility, but we said, given that it's for supporting military actors with training and equipment, we'd say, well, perhaps it should be more called, well, a European Military Cooperation Facility or something. So we kind of think in that sense. But obviously that will then have implications for how much money is available for the other activities which it currently funds, which we think are valuable in terms of peace building. So the types of work that are funded under the Instrument Contributing to Stability and Peace, Democracy and Human Rights. We don't want those to be deprioritised in favour of these new activities. And then there's also pressure in other areas to think. So yeah, we're thinking of things like youth peace and security, women peace and security, transitional justice, mediation, peace education, all these types of activities which are currently funded. We don't want those to be left aside in favour of these new priorities. also at a time when, and again was discussed yesterday evening, pressures on spending more on migration in the instruments, more on counter-terrorism, on countering violent extremism, all these different areas which are putting increasing pressure. At the moment, we can't say it's happened yet, but that's the kind of, as I say, that's the concerning direction of travel that we seem to be going down, that we want to try and defend what we consider the positive support that the EU can provide.
Lidija, bilo bi lijepo čuti vaš komentar na ove izazove vezano uz financiranje, povezivanje različitih znači komponenti i onda konkretno što to znači u praksi. Možete li se osvrnuti na neke recentne operacije u kojima se vidi što štima, šta ne štima?
Zapravo bi se vratila korak unatrag. Ben je spomenuo militarizaciju peacekeepinga i peacebuildinga. Prije nekoliko godina Europska unija je pokrenula novu misiju EUTM in Mali, dakle EU Training Mission in Mali, koja je bila zamišljena da će raditi na jačanju malijskih, prije svega, oružanih snaga. Misija je bila lijepo zamišljena, da bi trebala imati 450 vojnika iz 10 europskih zemalja. U samom sklapanju snaga je došlo do problema, tako da od 450 vojnika, 200 vojnika su bili vojni instruktori koji su radili sa malijskim oružanim snagama, ali je 250 vojnika iz europskih zemalja otišlo u misiju da bi štitili dotične instruktore. Dakle, 50 više nego što ih je radilo na obučavanju malijskih oružanih snaga. Pod broj 2, u toj misiji je Europska unija gledala kroz svoju prizmu, ne kroz prizmu onoga što se događa na samom terenu. Tako da u generiranju snaga su recimo sudjelovala i Finska. Finski vojnici su sa svojih 0 stupnjeva ili malo još ispod 0 došli u Mali na +30. Kolabirali su. Dakle, nije se vodilo računa o uvjetima na terenu i o toj nekakvoj prijelaznoj fazi. Kad su europske snage došle u Mali obučavati oružane snage Malija, došle su sa svojom modernom opremom, novom opremom. Malijci toga nisu imali, ne samo da nisu imali, nisu niti vidjeli u stvarnosti. Onda se ispostavilo da je ta oprema potpuno neupotrebljiva. Ono što im je poznat im je ruski kalašnjikov, kojeg u europskim zemljama nema.
U nekima ima.
U nekima ima. Te koje imaju, kao što je primjerice Hrvatska, su doprinijele europskoj misiji jačanja sigurnosnih snaga u Maliju, donirajući oružje. Dakle, mi smo donirali simbolično 50-ak kalašnjikova, Crna Gora je donirala recimo poljske krevete, kojih isto nije bilo, jer naprosto Europska unija nije razmišljala o tome da bi trebala voditi računa o nekim najosnovnijim stvarima kojih na terenu nije bilo. S druge strane, nije ni NATO previše bolji. Uzmimo recimo primjer misije u Afganistanu, gdje je Hrvatska također donirala oružje kao svoj doprinos. Dakle, to je doprinos Hrvatske države, gdje smo također donirali kalašnjikove, no međutim, s druge strane, hrvatski vojnici su se samo inicijativno organizirali da bi lokalnoj zajednici, djeci koju viđaju svaki dan, donirali slikovnice, igračke i takve stvari. Dakle, s jedne strane na nacionalnoj razini je potpora zapravo militarizaciji ovakve vrste misija, a s druge strane na nižoj razini, na vojnicima koji s time žive i rade svaki dan, se vidi zapravo stvarna potreba i stvarna želja da se nešto, barem sitnim koracima napravi.
Markus, would you like to add something at this point before my last round of questions?
The question is in which field to add, because we have so many fields on the table that it is a little bit difficult. But I think all these fields belong together, and it is not very often the awareness that they belong together. They are dealt separately, and that's the problem. Even that we theoretically we are able to do it together, but we have to do it much better. And so I think all what you mentioned with security issues or defense fund, European Union is starting in that field and has to learn a lot. So what I mentioned before, the question of military and civil comprehensive decision-making analysis is very important, and I can't see that it's done and integrated enough. I think it is not so that we said because we can trust in America, we have to improve European defense, which I agree that we should, but we not follow the way of NATO. Yeah. We have other instruments too. And this is my point, that we should integrate it much more with political, economic development, all these other instruments we have as EU, which NATO don't have. Okay. So I think this is one point. But I personally would come back to issues which, in my view, are very important for Croatia too. That's, on the one hand, that point what I mentioned about minorities. I think this is not only for Croatia, it is for whole Europe. I many years ago made the proposal that European Union should give one of the commissioners the responsibility of minorities, not to create new laws for European level, because we have some good regulations in the Lisbon Treaty, but following that line and the question of implementation, develop programs, because it's usually cross-border questions, and to develop dialogues, programs, self-determinance of minorities on European level, better exchange and all of that. I think it is really a very important challenge which European Union until now hasn't really took and implemented. And this is one field I really am would be very engaged to do much more on that level. And the second point is in a way, but not enough. When I was in the beginning of the last decade, I asked in Brussels, what should we do with dealing with past? In that time, the response was nothing. This will split us. Because it's very clear, every nation has its own approach to, and we have all different one, that was seen as a danger. But then it was very interesting with the new memberships after 2004 in the European Parliament, with the anniversary of the last, in 2005, of the end of Second World War, the European Parliament started with that. Because it was very clear, it is our common history, but we have different approaches and we have to deal with. We have to deal with from our point of view of our values. And that's a very, very difficult process. And not only on the European level in the Parliament, it should be implemented and much more done for the nations and in the societies.
Like here in
and I think even in Croatia, but not only Croatia, you will almost no country where you have no problems in this field. And I think we have to understand much better that peace is the ability of societies and nations, but even societies, to deal with that differences, to accept different victims, for instance, in public commemoration. We very often have separate groups remembering just their own victims. But in the nation it is important to commemorate their in common. Not in common in the same way, always. This is a very difficult process. But for instance, even giving the knowledge about that, I think it would be a great point if it would be possible to have in Croatia a documentation center about the war 91 to 95, including the different perspectives of the, not only of Croats, but also the Serbs and other minorities who were part, including the neighbors. I know that today it seems to be impossible, but to start a process, to exchange the different views in public, and to create a space, a room for such kind of dialogue. This is a public responsibility and a European one. Why not financed by European Union, but not only in Croatia, but also in many places. I think here we should develop much more instruments, giving much more money in this field, but this is peace building in concrete.
Hvala Markus i hvala na zapravo vrlo konkretnoj preporuci i na kraju krajeva i afirmaciji svega što upravo radi Europski dom Vukovar i svi se trudimo na tome raditi, a to je da je pitanje suočavanja s prošlošću, proces suočavanja s prošlošću, življenje sa različitostima i poštivanje manjinskih prava, ali manjinskih prava ne samo formalno, nego kroz interkulturalni kontakt su teme koje bi definitivno trebale biti na dnevnom redu konferencije o budućnosti Europe, znači procesa koji počinje za vrijeme hrvatskog predsjedanja i koji je povjeren hrvatskoj povjerenici koja dolazi iz hrvatskih redova, znači gospođi Šuici koja je sada potpredsjednica i komisije, a zadužena je za razvoj demokracije u Europskoj uniji. I možda evo jedan od prijedloga, sad dolazimo u zadnji dio, da možda se i mi obratimo sa preporukom da manjinska prava, interkulturalizam, suočavanje s prošlošću i procesi izgradnje mira unutar Europske unije budu na dnevnom redu konferencije o budućnosti Europe. S ovim hvala Markuse puno. Ja bih sada otvorila finalni dio razgovora gdje bismo se zapravo fokusirali na prijedloge. Možemo krenuti od aktualne, znači na prijedloge kako Europska unija može konkretno, i to u periodu koji je pred nama, znači govorimo o 2020. i 2021. Imamo predsjedanje sad Hrvatske, nakon toga slijedi predsjedanje Njemačke, što je isto vrlo, vrlo važno, taj kontinuitet. Zamislimo sljedeće odbore za vanjske poslove na kojima se raspravlja o sigurnosnim politikama, o kriznim žarištima, jer svako krizno žarište, koliko god to cinično zvuči, je i prilika za promjenu pristupa u odnosu na prethodna krizna žarišta, odnosno to je prilika za učenje. Trenutno imamo stvarno strahotnu eskalaciju sukoba između SAD-a i Irana, koji zahvaća cijeli prostor koji je inače već zahvaćen dugoročnim ratovima i koji zapravo generira ogroman priljev izbjeglica, ljudi koji su potpuno izgubili šansu za bilo kakvu budućnost. U tom pogledu možda konkretno na ovom primjeru, ovom kriznom žarištu, možemo iz toga izvući, evo ga, ako zamislimo koje bi se teme trebale naći na dnevnom redu i na koji način Odbora za vanjske poslove Vijeća Europske unije kad se radi o tom kriznom žarištu i o afirmaciji mirovne politike Europske unije. Sada i ovdje. Lidija, hoćete li vi ovaj put malo? Kako ocjenjujete ovo dokle je stigla Europska unija danas i što smatrate da su neki koraci koje bi i Hrvatska kao predsjedavajuća trebala podržati i promovirati?
Pa ja volim reći da Europska unija kroz svoju vanjsku politiku o svemu ima priopćenja, o malo čemu ima stav. I bojim se da se to nekako na primjeru ove američke intervencije u Iranu zapravo prilično dobro vidjelo. Bilo je, čini mi se taj dan, jedno 3 do 5 priopćenja koje je AS plasirala u javnost. No, međutim, što se tiče konkretnog stava, tu zapravo nismo čuli jako puno. Kroz hrvatsko predsjedanje očekivalo se nekako da će, ili da bi Hrvatska trebala malo tu temu iznijeti u javnost, pojaviti se eventualno kao nekakav medijator, kao spona između Brisela, Washingtona i Teherana. To se, nažalost, očito neće dogoditi. Ono što bi prije svega, po meni, Europska unija trebala napraviti, pronaći način kako pomiriti interese svojih članica, dakle na nacionalnoj razini, i na koji način iskustva koja na kraju krajeva ima i Hrvatska, iskustva koja je donio ovaj prostor, dakle i BiH i Kosovo, na koji način to u najboljem svjetlu implementirati na krizna žarišta, zato što se dio tih iskustava sasvim sigurno može primijeniti, ali, kažem, prije svega bojim se da Europska unija mora sama sa sobom razriješiti među svojim članicama niz stvari koje ju onemogućavaju da krene dalje.
A to je onda posao za Vijeće Europske unije. Znači, Hrvatska ima posla u tom pogledu ako ga se želi primiti.
Ako ga se želi prihvatiti, Hrvatska bi tu mogla imati jako puno posla.
Blic, Ben, evo ga prijedlog agende za kratki osvrt i onda ostatak slušamo prijedloge naših sugovornika.
I think I echo a lot of what Lydia has just said. I think in this particular crisis, I think it's very difficult for the EU to act at the moment. And as you mentioned, there have been kind of statements and calls for restraint and but beyond that, so far, I think it's very difficult. I think the EU, the member states, need to have a very clear position themselves, and I'm not sure to what extent that exists at the moment. I think there are, as has been discussed quite a lot already, diverging interests in things. I think so far, I mean, I'm not an expert on Iran at all, and it's not something we particularly focused on as a network, but I know a lot of our member organisations are working there, and the EU so far has played a very important role in terms of the nuclear, the deal and things, and trying to keep that alive, and I think that, as we said before about the kind of vacuum of actors working, if it can continue to provide this kind of calming force, perhaps is perhaps the best that we can hope for at the moment. I'm not sure beyond that, unless there's a very clear position. I think it'll be discussed, I think in the Foreign Affairs Council, is it next week or the following week, but I know it's coming up, so whether anything comes of it, I'm not sure, but again, we have to be kind of optimistic, but hope that they can resolve their internal differences first.
Hvala puno. I sada vas molimo za vaše prijedloge, komentare, ali primarno prijedloge, znači pitanja i teme za koje smatrate da se trebaju naći na dnevnom redu odlučivanja i Vijeća Europske unije i Odbora za vanjske poslove Vijeća, zapravo koje vodi EAS, a tiču se znači jačanja kapaciteta Europske unije za oživotvorenje svoje misije, za aktivnu izgradnju i politiku izgradnje mira globalno i konkretno što bi tu Hrvatska mogla poduzeti, što možemo i predložiti našoj vladi u tom pogledu. Mikrofon je vaš. Ajde.
Evo, hvala vam puno na ovim doprinosima, da probijem ne da sa prvim pitanjem. U stvari, ne mogu toliko ići sada na agendu faka, ali samo imam neke 3 konkretne stvari koje možda onda možemo vidjeti, provući kroz agendu. 3 pitanja za svakog od panelista. Mislim, Lidija, za tebe bih htio, ako nam može samo dati šta se dešava sa Europskim obrambenim fondom, jer je Hrvatska vrlo ambiciozno najavila u svom programu da ga misli zatvoriti za vrijeme našeg predsjedanja, znači u sljedećih 5 mjeseci. Možda samo za širu publiku, to je veliko ulaganje koje ide u obrambenu prvenstvenu industriju, jer tu Europska unija pleše po jednoj jako tankoj crti, budući da EU u svom akiju nema zajedničku obrambenu, ne može ulagati u zajedničku vojsku i tako dalje, onda su smislili Europski obrambeni fond kao inovacije, research, trgovanje oružjem po Europskoj uniji. Znači, gdje sad to ide i zašto je on dobio tako na važnosti? Kako ti to interpretiraš? Da li će ga Hrvatska moći zatvoriti do kraja lipnja? Ben, za tebe pitanje, koji je mirovni odgovor na taj fond? Da li smo vidjeli jedno tako rapidno ulaganje kao što je taj fond eksplodirao u zadnjih par godina, da je došlo do nekih prijedloga hardcore mirovnjačkih fondova kao odgovor, i da li to uopće pozicija zagovaračka mirovnih organizacija u Europi? Ok, tu ste upucali 13 milijardi eura, ajte sad u hardcore peacebuilding upucajte 10, pa onda da idemo s oba instrumenta. Šta se tu dešava, ako možeš pojasniti? I Markus, konačno za vas pitanje, apsolutno se slažem s vama da treba... Sorry?
Could you repeat the question? We didn't get it. The second part.
It is about the... Okay.
So only because when we are looking how European Defence Fund has increased incredibly in financial terms, is there any peace response on that fund? So is there any request that we want to see the same or even bigger amount to be invested in hardcore policies? So what's going on around that in Europe? And Markus, for you, it's just, I really also appreciate your statement that, we should support Democrats across, outside of Europe, the people who wants to bring who wants to establish democracy in their own countries. But for many years, we are constantly facing the same obstacle, that EU as such a huge institutions, bureaucratic institutions, cannot find a way how to reach them. I mean, European Instrument for Democracy and Human Rights is really the good one. Most of us use that even in the post-conflict period. But it's still not designed for the real peace builders. As yesterday in the evening when we had a discussion and we were hearing the voices of peace builders from the Balkan region, there was this symbol, is it possible to have academy for the punk? So is it possible to have instrument for the peace building, real peace building? Can we even imagine that one day the money, the support can go in more non-formal ways and directions, because this is what is obviously needed, and everyone is screaming around that kind of support should be more present and more trust than given to those Democrats living across the globe.
Gordane, hvala puno. Ja bih ovo sada samo sažela u pitanje financiranja, pitanje fonda obrambenog, realnog, stvarnog novca za izgradnju mira i pitanje podrške stvarnim mirovnim snagama širom svijeta, a to su mirovnjaci u lokalnim zajednicama. Možemo li prije, na kraju ćete se očitovati ako je to u redu, još sada prikupiti još nekoliko prijedloga ili pitanja, jer ćemo uskoro morati sve zaokružiti. Ja ću onda samo sumirati. Imamo preporuku vezanu uz suočavanje s prošlošću. Ima? Super, izvolite.
Milan Ivanović, Osijek. Jedno pitanje uz jedan mali uvod. Jedno istraživanje koje smo radili prije pola godine i izašlo je u knjizi Hrvatska nagrada za mir. Znači, radi se o mirovnim nagradama. I napravili smo pregled mirovnih nagrada u Europi gdje Njemačka prednjači. Svaki veći grad u Njemačkoj ima nagradu koja je međunarodno prepoznatljiva. Dodjeljuje je u suštini lokalne zajednice, lokalni fondovi, odnosno nevladine organizacije mirovne. I to istraživanje smo detaljnije napravili za područje jugoistočne Europe i samo kratko, znači Slovenija nema mirovnu nagradu, od tih zemalja Europske unije nema ni Mađarska, nema ni Rumunjska, nema ni Bugarska, Hrvatska ima jednu vrlo značajnu koja je međunarodno prepoznatljiva. Srbija, Bosna, ove zemlje Albanija, Kosovo, Makedonija nemaju. I recimo jedan primjer, u Beogradu je bila jedna mirovna nagrada, ona se ugasila jer iz financijskih razloga. U Sarajevu je jedna vrlo vrijedna nagrada, građanska hrabrost, također je prestala jer kubure te udruge sa financijama. Jedan samo mali detalj, recimo udruga koja dodjeljuje tu nagradu morala je plaćati 4000 maraka dvoranu Skupštine grada Sarajeva u kojoj se nagrada dodjeljuje, recimo. Sad, znači, pitanje je da bi trebalo naći nekakve modele da se civilne mirovne organizacije u Europskoj uniji i u zemljama koje teže da postanu članice, da se na nekakav način podupru ta nastojanja, da li kroz nacionalne fondove, da li kroz europske fondove, ali mislim da mirovne nagrade su jedan indikator spremnosti društva na mirovne projekte i mislim da je to pitanje koje svakako zaslužuje da se nađe u nekakvoj agendi odbora u Europskoj uniji kao i nacionalnih vlada. Toliko, hvala.
Hvala lijepo. Više puta, hvala puno, smo čuli da mirovni napori nisu vidljivi dovoljno, da nisu afirmirani, a upravo kroz mirovne nagrade, kroz europsku mirovnu nagradu bi se i morali afirmirati, a općenito je pitanje koliko je taj rad prepoznat i koliko ga Europska unija stvarno promovira, jer koliko smo čuli u ovim mnogim instrumentima se nigdje izgradnja mira eksplicite čak ni ne spominje, a kada se spominje mir, iza toga obično stoji vojna suradnja. Imamo li još prijedloga ili komentara u ovom trenutku? Ok. U redu, onda se vratimo pitanju financiranja europskog proračuna za obrambene i mirovne i operacije i svrhe. Omjer novca koji se ulaže u vojno i u civilno, građansko, grassroots, lokalno, da li tu možemo očekivati neke pozitivne ili negativne ishode i što konkretno, koliko je izvjesno da će to Hrvatska uspjeti zatvoriti, pitanje europskih mirovnih civilnih snaga, kako se one razvijaju, taj neki European Peace Corps. I Lidija, naravno. Hoćeš ti, Lidija, prvo?
Da, bilo je pitanje oko Europskog obrambenog fonda. Dakle, da, postoji najava da će do kraja hrvatskog predsjedanja on biti zaklopljen. Većina obrambenih sastanaka, obrambenih događanja bi trebala biti u 3. mjesecu, stvari će možda tada biti jasnije hoće li se to uspjeti ili ne. Radi se zapravo o enormnim sredstvima koje bi zemlje članice trebale generirati kako bi se spriječilo rasipanje sredstava. Dakle, procjena je da zbog nedostatka suradnje zemalja članica u razvoju, u opremanju sredstvima, u razvoju obrambenih sposobnosti se godišnje gubi do 100 milijardi eura, što je enormni novac. Ne? Dakle, kroz Europski obrambeni fond, kroz razvoj, kroz zajedničke nabave bi se trebao taj odljev za početak smanjiti, trebalo bi se pojačati financiranje razvoja. Istodobno nova predsjednica Europske komisije je najavila osnivanje novog generalnog direktorata za obrambenu industriju i space koji je ona zamislila kao nekakvo nadtijelo, što su već pojedine zemlje članice se izjasnile da je zapravo dupliranje sa nekim već postojećim tijelima. Potpuno još nije jasno na koji način će se i hoće li se ta tijela razvijati, isto kao što zapravo ja sam prilično skeptična oko Europskog obrambenog fonda. Kažem, velik je novac u pitanju, relativno kratki rokovi i naravno ponovno parcijalni interesi zemalja članica koje već sada pojedine zemlje razvijaju neke svoje sposobnosti, djelomično ulažu u razvoj, ali to je opet pitanje primjerice ima li Hrvatska tu što tražiti.
Hvala. Would you like to go first? No, maybe Ben and then you.
Yeah. On that, I think, Lydia, I also agree. I mean, I have lots of questions about even the validity of the European Defence Fund, because one fundamental question to me is the idea of combining European defence industries. I mean, I understand the rationale that's been, but I find it difficult to understand which member state then would be the one to say, okay, we're going to give up our own industry for the sake of combining. Where I'm from in the UK, in the United Kingdom, is actually it's the town where they make Britain's nuclear submarines, and I kind of think that's all they do in that place, and I can't see if we were going to be part of it, how they would say, okay, we will give that to another member state and they can do it. But that was just an aside on the European Defence Fund. On the alternative, is there an equal proposal? No, sadly. It's really what my colleagues and I are working on to try and defend is that what we have now, the status quo, so the programmes that are there, they're all being merged into a new funding programme, and we want to make sure that what funding is available at the moment for peace building in those is maintained in the next cycle at a time when there are all these new priorities. So and also in terms of the external funding, so the funding outside the European Union, that they don't then reprioritise what they spend on peace building for the new military priorities as well. We're looking particularly, one area that we're looking at is it's called the Instrument for Pre-Accession Assistance mainly for the countries in the Western Balkans as well. And what in the original Commission proposal, conflict prevention and peace building wasn't one of the priorities, and we said, well, it really should be. It is in the previous period. It should continue to be so. They shouldn't just abandon that for the sake of new priorities like capacity building for military actors or migration, and that's something that we're working on. In terms of the actual amounts, in the previous presidency, so at the end of 2019, the Finnish presidency of the Council of the EU made a new proposal for how much the actual amounts was going to be, and they proposed to cut the amount, which one of the areas for peace building, and we reacted to that, and a lot of the member states did. And now the president of the European Council, Charles Michel, is going to come up with a new proposal sometime during the Croatian presidency period. So we'll have to see what comes out of that, and hopefully it will be better for us in terms of support for peace building. And is Croatia going to finish the thing in its who knows? It's from what we know from the negotiations, it's incredibly dense, it's incredibly complicated, and I started off saying I'm optimistic. I have to be optimistic, but I think it's a huge task. But I hope that they will at least make a lot of progress on it. So it has to be finished by the end of the year, ideally. So fingers crossed.
Znači, hrvatsko-njemačka suradnja je definitivno nužna u tom pogledu da bi se ti procesi završili ove godine. Dolazimo pred sam kraj i taman nam je naš dragi gost Markus zadnji govornik. Gordan je postavio pitanje o jačanju, znači kapaciteta mirovnih, građanskih, odnosno kako Europska unija stvarno može doprijeti do pravih graditelja mira na terenu širom svijeta, do demokrata. Znači, vaša možda poruka Europskoj uniji na šta da se usmjeri više nego što se do sad usmjerila, da novac stigne do svih ljudi od Vukovara do Bjelorusije, do svih dijelova svijeta koji se stvarno bave dijalogom.
At first I would like to come back to the defense fund and that aim, because I don't share it. I think it is, in my view, it is the wrong goal. That's why I would argue with you about in that debate, because I think we can look forward, and you asked a lot of good questions, I think, who should be done, but Europe has to care for its security. And even this part of its security is a part of that. It can be good or it can be not so good. We should do it, could be better than we are doing. And we are in a starting phase, but that's, I think, is a discussion for experts. And I am totally against to bring against each other that question of peace promotion, civil society, and all of that against the question of defense funds. These are different questions and have to be dealt with separately. That's my point, and that's why I don't think that we would have the aim. And in this point, if Croatia is trying it, hopefully, and I'm sure, Germany won't be an ally for that. So I'm very sure in that point. But I even don't think that Croatia is following that goal. I think, and in this point, I would support the government not following your proposal. So we can discuss it. But this is one point, but I wanted to be very clear in this because we have to separate these questions. The other point you raised again about civil society and even peace builders, is this a part of civil society engagement? I think we know all what we need. The problem is that there's not enough political support, the political willingness. And this has to be created. If we see that this European endowment, then time with Polish initiative, was created, and if we see with that little body it is, and if we see in which way not only outside of European Union, even inside of European Union, civil society has to be supported, increased, and if you see the Western Balkan, it is a marvelous challenge to do so, and what we need is more flexibility, short range of decision making, flexibility, differentiation, and what we always is our problem in European Union is that we had decision making of a so-called diplomatic way, because we and that's the problem always for European Union. There are 28 or in the future 27, and hopefully then again more, but countries to find common positions in generally. But then I think we have to bring it to a special institution which is able to deal with civil society. Usually diplomats are not. That's sorry against diplomats, but diplomats are not experienced in that very often. There are some of them, I know a lot of them are really good in that, but it's not their usual job. And we need in such kind of institution people who are experienced in dealing with civil society, not because civil society is always good, but because civil society is very often difficult, because they have no long-term perspective. During some years, it's changing always. And if you have changing structures, changing situation, this for usual state institutions, it's difficult to deal with that. And so you need an institution for supporting civil society, which is flexible, has experience with that. Most could be that they, in their own biography, have some experiences and so on. This is a challenge, and there is no special advice I can give, because I think all what we have to know, we know. But it has to be done, and this is a question where we can do it. And in my view, the best is engagement in European Parliament. This is my experience. Commission, it's difficult. You will find people there who are engaged, but between Commission and Parliament, this is the main issue, I would say.
Hvala lijepa, hvala Markusu, hvala Lidiji, hvala Benu, hvala svima vama na strpljenju i završavamo ovu našu uvodnu sesiju sa porukom da integracija unutar Europske unije je jako veliki jamac. Ti procesi usuglašavanja su najjači jamac za to da se mirovna misija Europske unije uopće može provoditi i da se svi zajedno trebamo snažno založiti za to da se pitanja razvoja kapaciteta za izgradnju mira odozdo stave na dnevni red odlučivanja i da se tema razvoja demokracije i izgradnje mira definitivno ugradi i u procese daljnjih dogovora o suradnji država članica i kroz konferenciju o budućnosti Europe. Hvala vam svima, sad imamo pauzu, a nakon toga se bavimo puno konkretnim temama, a to je što jesu već postojeće dobre prakse i iskustva djelovanja izvan Europske unije na procesima izgradnje mira koje onda možemo i predočiti kao dragocjenost i zalog za budućnost na razini europskih politika. Hvala vam još jednom na strpljenju.